video is going to be on systems word problems. So a word problem where there's two things that we don't know. Instead of just one thing that we don't know, there's two different things we don't know. And they're going to be system word problems that are nice for substitution. Not that you can't solve any word problem for substitution, but these ones are set up so it's like helpful. It's like smart to use substitution. So a big part of what we're going to do is we're going to like talk about points. So we talk about 145 points, right? And we talk about something that's worth, some questions are worth 5 points, some things are worth 2 points. And they're asking about how many 5-point questions are on the test. So I want an equation that's all about points, and I'm going to use green to write that equation. So let's think about how we can get an equation that's all about points. So we know that there's a total of 145 points. I'm going to put the word points in here. You don't necessarily have to have that. There's a bunch of questions. There's, let's say, X 2-point questions and Y 5-point questions. So why don't we just define that as X is the number of 2-point questions. And why don't we say Y is the number of 5-point questions. So if we know there are some number of 2-point and some number of 5-point, we're going to take the 2-point questions and multiply those by 2, and the 5-point questions and multiply those by 5 to get our answer. So what I'm saying is that we have something that's like X plus Y, but it's actually, importantly, it's going to be 2X plus 5Y. So if we have 5-point questions, that's 25 points, 5Y, so we put 5 in for Y. If we had 10 2-point questions, that'd be 20 points. So you can see how this would get us 20 points if we had 10 2-point questions, right? And you can see how this would get us 25 points if we had 5 5-point questions, just as an example. So that's our first question. Our first equation. Our second equation is just about the number of questions. So we know that this thing contains 50 questions, right? So we know that it's going to be a total of 50 questions. I'll put quest for short. 50 questions. How many 2-point questions do we have? What could we say for that? Think about that. Well, we said up the top, we said the number of 2-point questions was simply X. So we have X 2-point questions, and we have, think about how many 5-point questions we have. Y 5-point questions. So that's kind of where we're going with this. And hopefully that setup makes some sense. All right, so here's the thing. Once you set up this system of equations, you've done the hardest part of this whole problem. Because now you pretend it's a worksheet. You don't really need to focus on the fact that this is the points equation and this is the questions equation. In a way, you simply scroll down and solve this. And that makes it a lot easier. So ignore the fact that you were doing a word problem and just crunch out the numbers. So let's crunch through the math. So I'm going to start solving. I'll solve the bottom one for X. So I'll get X equals, we're going to subtract Y from both sides, right? X equals 50 minus Y. And we'll plug that in to the top equation here. So now we'll have 2X. So 2X plus 5Y equals 145. And we know that X is going to equal 50 minus Y. So feel free to solve while I'm solving. I'm just going to kind of go through this quickly and get an answer. And you can go ahead and do the same as you're watching. So we get 100. Be careful here that this is negative 2Y. This is where most mistakes happen, right here. Distributing and getting a sign mistake. That's the most common error on these problems. Most people have pretty good skills, but they're distributing. They always have like some area where they might have made a mistake. The good news is we took the red equation and the green equation, we boiled it down into one equation, which is in black now, and it's a simple equation that we can solve. We can all solve this equation on our own. So now we have 5y minus 2y, which is 3y, by CLT, combining like terms. We subtract 100. So 3y equals 45, and y is equal to 15 if you divide both sides by 3. So that y equals 15 has a meaning. What does that y equals 15 mean in the context of the problem? Back to the problem we were solving, what does it mean? Anybody know that? What is it? Yes?
The amount of 5-point questions.
So the answer came that it was the amount of 5-point questions, was it? Yeah, so 15 5-point questions. So that's good. We can look up here in the top corner, so just take a look here. If you look there, you can see it's the number of 5-point questions, right? And we can see that there were 15 5-point questions. So we know there are 15 5-point questions. 15 5-point questions. But how many questions were there on the test? 50 questions? So if there are 50 questions on the test, we could use this red equation, top right of your screen. If we use this red equation, x plus y equals 50, together there's got to be 50 questions, and there were 15 is y, right? And we know that we're going to have 35 2-point questions. So there are 35 2-point questions. Now that's a total of 50 questions. We can see that clearly. The question is, does it add up to 145 points, this test? So 15 times 5, how many points is that? Well, that's actually going to be, I think, 75 points in 5-point questions. And then this is 35 times 2, that's 70 points. So that's a total of 145 points. So we know that we are in good shape. We've solved the system of equations correctly. So we should always put it back into a sentence. If you're asked a question in sentences, you should answer in sentences. So if I was to ask you a question in a complete sentence, you wouldn't just answer me x equals 9. You'd say, you'd actually answer me like with a sentence. So we're just going to write a quick sentence of what this means. So I'm going to say, there were, let me type it out just because it's a little bit easier. Bless you, my handwriting is not good. So here we go. I'll say, there were 15 5-point questions and 35 2-point questions on the test. And that's really it. That's how you answer it. You answer it a word problem in words. You answer a word problem in words. So scrolling down, we're going to go to this next problem. Yes? Yep, so there were 15 5-point questions and 35 2-point questions on the test. So remember, when you're setting up these equations, one equation is going to have to do with one type of situation, and the other equation has to do with the other. So in this case, we're going to have two equations. This one's a little tricky. So we have two small pitchers and one large pitcher that holds 8 cups of water. That's going to be an equation right there. And then here in another one, the large pitcher holds 2 more cups of water than the small pitcher. So we need the green equation, which is 2s. Why don't we say 2s, too small, plus 1l. If that's okay with you, I'll just make a nice, beautiful one like that. And what does that hold together? 8 cups of water. So I don't think anybody has issues with the top equation. But the bottom equation people have trouble with, because the large pitcher has 2 more cups than the small. So you got to take the small and then do what? Yes? The small pitcher and then add 2 to it, right? So what I'll do is I'll just say the small pitcher, and then we add 2 cups of water. That's going to be the amount that the large pitcher holds. Agree? So we're going to take this and substitute it in there. So when we do that, I'm going to go a little faster here, a little bit faster. That's going to be 2s plus 2 equals 8. So 2s, just a little bit smaller here, plus 1s, because it's just s, right, plus 2 equals 8. And now I'm just going to use black marker to solve this. So I've got 3s equals 6. I skipped a step. S is equal to 2. So we know that there are 2 cups in the small pitcher. Small pitcher is 2 cups of water. And if the case is that the large one holds 2 more cups than that, we can already kind of know that the large, right, is going to hold 4 cups. Let's make sure that this all makes sense. Does the large hold 2 more than the small? Yeah. do 2 small pitchers and a large pitcher, 2 small pitchers, that's 4 cups to all total. The large pitcher's 4 cups, 4 and 4 is 8 cups of water. So we know we've gotten there. The trickiest part of this problem, I think, is the blue, writing the blue equation. But if we were going to finally put this into a sentence, and I did a little bit of this in my head, but for the most part, we did out the math. The answer would be the large pitcher holds 4 cups, and the small pitcher holds 2 cups. And that would be what we're looking for an answer. We always have our answer in a sentence, in words, when we have a word problem. So hopefully that made some sense to you. I'd like you to try to just kind of stop where we are with the video. So we're going to be done here. And I want you to try these last couple problems here. So this problem's not too bad. It's on the back of your note handout, I believe. And then there's this problem. Oops, sorry, this problem here, 3 and 4. Now 4 is a whole lot like that test question problem. And 3 is probably something you've seen a couple times before. So pause the video and make sure you try problems 3 and 4 as part of this assignment. I will see you in the next video. Peace.